Good evening, members. Members, we're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm goes off during the meeting, please leave immediately by the nearest emergency exit. Gather outside Runnymede Hall. Members, can you introduce yourself, starting on the right-hand side with Councillor Warren Gibson?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Warren Gibson, Cabinet Member for LGR and Devolution.
Thank you. Steve Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Thank you. Councillor Tim Copsey, Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening all. Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Good evening, everyone. Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Climate.
Evening all. Councillor Tom Gibson, Cabinet Member for Special Projects and Assets.
Good evening, members. Councillor Michael Fuller, Cabinet Member for Environment.
Good evening, everyone. It's Councillor Russ Savage. I'm the Cabinet Member for People and Community.
Thank you, members. Item 1, apologies for absence. I noticed we're all here, so I'll take it there's no apologies. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? There's no interest to declare. Agenda item 3 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of April. Members, is it okay I sign the minutes of the previous meeting? Thank you very much. Agenda item 4, members' questions on notice. Members, there are none. Agenda item 5, the Housing Improvement Programme update. Councillor Lillis, can you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet, the purpose of this report is to provide you with the details of the current position relating to the Housing Improvement Programme. This report highlights the progress made to date against the core housing consumer standards and the critical work being undertaken to achieve compliance with the Big Six compliance issues and damp and mould. This report follows on from the report that I gave to Cabinet on 20 November 2024, in which Cabinet considered a report on the Housing Improvement Programme after the publication of a C3 regulatory judgment from the Regulator of Social Housing, hereafter the Regulator, on 13 September 2024. As you'll be aware, on the 12th of December 2024, the Regulator published a second regulatory judgment which downgraded the Council's compliance with the consumer standards to C4. The Council's response to addressing the concerns of the Regulator is the Housing Improvement Programme, hereafter HIP. The HIP is intended to provide the Regulator with the assurance that the Council has the ability to put things right and ensure that it does not happen again. It is vital, therefore, that the Council is clear about what went wrong and the lessons which it has learned. Consequently, following further discussions with the Regulator, an agreed improvement plan was established which captured the specific consumer standards requirements and the necessary compliance activities that were necessary to meet regulatory standards, and these are set out in Appendix 1. At the Cabinet meeting of 20 November 2024, the establishment of a Housing Improvement Programme Board, the HIP Board that I chair, was agreed to provide clear member oversight of the improvements needed in the service, on the discussions with the Regulator, and ensure that there was continual improvement in the housing service. The initial terms of reference for the HIP Board were agreed at that meeting. Since this time, monthly meetings have been taking place with the Regulator, that I now attend, to review progress and deal with any challenge from the Regulator in respect of specific compliance matters as they arise. The improvement plan continues to be reviewed and adjusted as further progress is made or additional matters have been identified to ensure that particularly the compliance agenda is rectified at pace. Members are also asked to note that a critical element of monitoring improvements has been the involvement of the HIP Board. Finalisation of the HIP Board's terms of reference set out in Appendix 2, core key performance indicators, KPIs, information, and the relevant training of HIP Board members has now been completed. The work of the HIP Board is supported by a representative of Housing Quality Network, HQN, an independent organisation which works in the social housing sector, helping social landlords to achieve and maintain compliance with the consumer standards. HQN performs a vital, independent assurance role to help the HIP Board perform its role of overseeing the improvement plan, and further work involving HQN is now planned to support the HIP Board. It is a requirement of the regulator that the council should involve its tenants in the influencing of housing policy and service improvements. To assist the council in building this new working relationship, the HIP has secured the Tenant Participation and Advisory Service, TPAS, to re-engineer the tenant involvement strategy to ensure that increased influence by tenants is achieved as one of the core elements of the HIP. TPAS will also be supporting the HIP Board in involving tenants at the appropriate time in HIP Board activities, something that I look forward to very much, and will assist in presenting the final re-engineering report for the HIP Board to consider. In addition, the Association of Retained Council Housing, ARCH, reached out to the council to offer advisory support. This has led to the council, which was already a member of ARCH, being appointed to the ARCH Board, which provides members and officers with peer-to-peer support. This support is crucial as part of the council's learning, identifying best practice, and sharing experiences that mean that the council is better placed to deliver the improvements necessary. Myself and the Director, Place and Communities, sit on the ARCH Board. And our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, 30 June 2025. Cabinet, the following work has been completed or is currently still underway in respect of service improvement activity. Under repairs and maintenance. Following the expiry of the council's contract with South Essex Homes on 31 March 2025, and in accordance with the decision of Cabinet on 22nd January this year, the council's contract with South Essex Homes was brought to an end. All management arrangements previously undertaken by South Essex Homes were successfully brought in-house and have been operated by the council since 01 April this year. The council now has full management responsibility and new staff have been brought in, including an interim head of housing technical services to manage the new service. As part of this, and as a priority task, a review of the housing maintenance day-to-day offer and the establishment of a new programme of works and capital investment capacity has begun. This has allowed a significant review of core contract work and the rationalisation of other contracts with the support of MCP Property Services, the council's primary day-to-day responsive repairs and maintenance contractor. Working with MCP Property Services in a more intensive way has also allowed the council to establish a more focused and evidence-based set of key performance indicators, and these are set out in Appendix 3. Information which has subsequently already begun to demonstrate signs of improvements regarding working in progress numbers being reduced, and more positive feedback beginning to emerge from tenants as to the service they receive. And I would like to thank Steve Colk, the interim head of Housing Technical Services, for the excellent work that he and his team have been carrying out, and for the recent briefing that he gave to myself and to the Vice Chair of the HIP Board, Councillor Kate Knott, and a special word of thanks to Councillor Kate Knott, our Deputy Mayor, whose good counsel I value immensely. Under tenant health and safety, at the heart of the regulator's judgment was whether the council could evidence whether tenants and residents were safe. The priority workstream for the housing improvement programme has been, therefore, putting in place robust data, improved contract management and greater checking and verification of work for gas, electrical, fire safety, water, lifts and asbestos, and the preparation of new policies covering each. A new policy for damp, mould and condensation has also been drafted. Contract adjustments have increased activity around core compliance matters, with full compliance now being achieved in respect of gas servicing, CO2 monitoring and smoke detection, although there are still some detectors requiring hard wiring fitments. Electrical installation condition reports should be 100% compliant by no later than August 2025. Other elements for compliance in respect of asbestos and water management are being reviewed currently. All fire risk assessment surveys, FRAs, are under review, with all reports having been completed by the end of May of this year. A fire door replacement programme and installation of fire alarms and improvement works following outputs of the fire risk assessment reports are being reviewed by a specialist advisor, and mitigation measures being costed and planned for. For all of the above, where there are faults, inconsistent records, or missing certificates, arrangements are now in place for immediate remediation. All of the necessary compliance and improvement activity is being driven forward with the Council's customers as the primary concern. Safe homes and quality of service delivery must be key to the emerging objectives. Full tenant engagement is also the aim of the Council. So in the future, tenants can properly influence future approaches and decisions around sustaining excellence in tenant health, safety and well-being in occupying council homes. A housing service review has also taken place with a new structure designed. The new structure includes the required technical knowledge and expertise within the housing technical support team to ensure that sustainability of the future stable state is embedded within an effective housing service. And under other activity, work continues in respect of other key elements of service improvement and compliance activity in the following areas. The procurement of a compliance and project management system. The Council established access to the Apex system used by South Essex Homes, and following a review of that system's capability, the full implementation of the Apex compliance and asset management system is now complete. This is a medium-term solution, pending the procurement of a new housing management system, which is also under review. Review of current warden call systems in sheltered accommodation schemes, including fire alarms and door entry systems, with cost impacts of replacement, is nearing completion. Review of sheltered housing facilities relating to furniture provision in communal areas, decorations, floor coverings, white goods and laundry equipment is underway. The full stock condition survey work started in May 2025, with completion expected in October 2025. And this will form the basis for the long-term planned and preventative maintenance programme. Cabinet, I am pleased to report that the key tenant satisfaction measures TSM survey results have today been submitted on time to the regulator's portal. Continued review of policies, procedures and strategies continues at pace, and reports seeking the necessary approvals will be presented either through the delegated authorisation process or through Cabinet as required. And I can tell members that I have had sight of a whole raft of new policies that are being presently drafted. In addition to completing the TSM, we have commissioned TPAS, tenant engagement experts, to co-create a new framework that clearly demonstrates how tenants will influence decisions and services. TPAS has undertaken a series of research discovery sessions with tenants and housing staff to find out about positive experiences of tenant influence and to gain insights. The design phase to develop the final engagement framework report is now underway, and the outputs of this work will be an informed engagement plan for the Council to deliver improvement tenants' engagement and participation. This will enable tenants to have a much greater influence on the housing service and provide assurance that this approach meets regulatory requirements. And the first new tenants newsletter, titled Your Housing, was distributed in February 2025 and the second edition is the May edition. These are attached as appendices 4 and 5. Included in the latest edition is an estimated timeframe for the schedule of big improvements that we are making to our housing service. Cabinet, I am pleased to inform you that HQN gave an all-member training session on housing a week ago today, the 11th of June. The session was very well attended, and the feedback that I received on the night from our colleagues was extremely positive. There were 23 members in attendance, including myself and Councillor Kate Knott, the Assistant Director Housing, Health and Partnerships, the Director Place and Communities, and the Chief Executive were also in attendance and helped to answer some of the questions raised by members. I can further inform you that a housing improvement programme update highlighting the progress made to date will be made to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on 02 July 2025. And finally, I take this opportunity to thank the Assistant Director, Housing, Health and Partnerships, Damien Geller, and all the HIP team, headed by Chris Stratford, for this report and for the hard work that is being put into our improving our housing service. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lillis. That was a very, very comprehensive report, and it just highlights some of the problems we inherited in our housing department. But I'm sure under your stewardship with all your officers, we'll make the housing department something the tenants will be proud of. So I thank you for all the hard work, and I know you're going to make sure that things are put right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, are there any questions? Okay, members, is that noted? Thank you very much, members. Members, agenda item 6. This item of business relates to the costing options for the waste containers for curbside waste and recycling collection. I would like to move a recommendation to defer this item so that more information can be brought back to the Cabinet around the options for residual waste and regarding the proposed consultation of residual waste. This is a complex issue and very important decision, and we need to get it right for our residents. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, is that agreed? Thank you very much. Agenda item 7, waste and recycling contractual update on recycling and disposal services. Councillor Fuller.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. The purpose of this report, of which you've had the full report in your pack, is to set out the contractual status of the waste collection and recycling service and recommended next steps. I'm going to provide a summary of that report because the report itself is quite lengthy. Dealing with recycling, the Assistant Director Waste and Recycling has undertaken a review of the contractual status of the services provided to the Council as part of its waste collection and recycling service. The review identified the Council's contract for its materials recycling facility has expired. It's actually expired in February 2019. This is a result of historical failure to deliver effective contract management, which needs immediate remedial action to mitigate risks arising from a lack of control over costs and potential risk of service failure. There is therefore an immediate need to regularise the current contractual position with BIFA and by extension its subcontractor Wasteaway, and also to procure a new MRF, materials recycling facility, contract for the future. And it's been necessary to renegotiate the Wasteaway contract to ensure continuity of service in the absence of a contract, and also noting the service was costing Wasteaway more to deliver than it was recovering. Wasteaway requested an increase of about £74,000 per annum based on current recycling tonnage levels. Officers also consulted with BIFA directly to verify the increase. Further due diligence was undertaken through a review of the cost of neighbouring borough, Rochford, which identified after the increase was applied, Castle Point would incur a total expenditure per annum of £529,000 for recycling processing. To regularise a contractual position for the immediate short term, it is proposed that the Council will make a direct award of contract to BIFA to ensure continuity of service, while at the same time the Council runs a procurement process for a new MRF contract. As it will take at least 12 months to procure a new contract, plus a further 6 months of mobilisation for a new contractor, it is proposed that the contract should be for a period of 20 months. There is no contract in place, and therefore a new contract would need to be drafted. BIFA has proposed terms for the Council's consideration, which will be negotiated. In terms of refuse, the operational process for refuse disposal up to the 31st of March 2025 was that the Council tipped refuse at Wasteaway, who then transported it to Colchester landfill. The Council worked with Wasteaway directly for this service on purchase order terms. With effect from the 1st of April 2025, Essex County Council managed this relationship directly under contract with Waste Company Endeavour, which is the ECC refuse contractor. As a result of the ECC direction that residual waste will be taken to Basildon rather than Colchester, in 2024-2025 the Council spent £312,000 on this service, and these costs will cease in 2025-2026. The cost was covered by an income received under terms of the intra-authority agreement. The financial implications of this is if spend in 2025-26 equals a prior year spend plus the additional 74,000, a total of 529,000, the eventual budget overspend will be 163,000. However, given uncertainty in tonnages and monthly pricing, it remains uncertain at this early stage of the year whether this overspend will materialise. If, as the year progresses, it is clear an overspend is likely to materialise, the Council will need to determine how this can be funded. The Council's financial regulations require other budgets to be reviewed first for forecast underspends, which can be reallocated, but any residual overspend can be met from the waste earmarked reserve, which holds a balance of 210,000, excluding extended producer responsibility payments of 802,000, and is therefore a total balance of 1.012 million. There are two options given in the report. The first option is to agree with the recommendations as set out, and the second option is to continue to operate the MRF service at risk outside of formal contractual terms. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Members, are there any questions? No questions. Okay, members, there are 4 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1, which I will move. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 8, refurbishment of the Knightswick Shopping Centre. Councillor Tom Gibson, please introduce your item.
Thank you, Leader. This is a report presented to Cabinet in the hope that it will approve the proposed additional investment to carry out refurbishment of the Knightswick Shopping Centre on Canvey Island. In July 2023, the Council approved a significant budget in order to refresh the internal part of the building, including new floor finishes, new pilasters, new ceiling treatment and new lighting. Since then, the entrance doors have come to the end of their life and will be replaced as per the planning permission granted in December of the same year. Since this time, the Council's appointed architects have, in line with the Assistant Director for Estates, developed a detailed design that will meet building regulations and regulatory compliance. The appointed architects will also deliver the detailed design insofar as technical specification, design tender documentation and contract administration during the construction stages through to completion of the project. This appointment was made within the original fee allocation approved by the Council. The architects continue to meet fortnightly with council officers and the centre management to ensure a well-planned approach to the project and to avoid disruption to traders during the Christmas 2025 period. The project is proposed to commence in February 2026. As the design process has progressed into more detail, some further features have been identified within the scope of works. It is now proposed that these be incorporated into the ongoing works rather than deferred to later in order to ensure that we are getting the best possible value for money for taxpayers. The revised proposals additional features include high-level window replacement, various fixtures and fittings, wayfinding, branding, signage, CCTV, and an allowance for out-of-hours working in order to minimise disruption to traders. The proposed scheme was presented to the Council's Asset Review Board on the 27th of January and 17th of February 2025. The proposed refurbishment scheme includes the replacement of flooring, ceiling, lighting, covering the pilasters, plus all of the improvements previously mentioned, at an additional expenditure of just over £800,000, further to that which was previously agreed by the Council. Further to these improvements, a new 5-year planned maintenance schedule will be prepared and implemented by the Council's managing agent practice based on a building condition survey commissioned and submitted to the Council in January of this year. These works will not affect the implementation of this planned maintenance programme. The necessary procurement regulations have been followed and a summary is available in section 6 of this report, along with a timeline of procurement and completion, with work starting in February and completing in June 2026. For the benefit of Cabinet and other members, Exempt Appendix A provides a summary of the proposed estimated costs as per the current stage pre-tender estimate. These estimations have been provided by a quantity surveyor and based on current market pricing. Appendix B provides further detail on the proposed scheme from the Council-appointed architects. This is, of course, a good news story, and the investment in and revitalisation of a dearly valued and economically important commercial asset should be welcomed. It's also important to consider the wider national context of this proposal. With local government reorganisation around the corner, in a few years we may well find ourselves under a council, over a new unitary council, overseeing several potentially larger shopping centres. By investing now, we are future-proofing this asset and increasing the likelihood that it will remain within public hands. To conclude, this is a fantastic opportunity to breathe new life into a highly valued commercial asset at the heart of our community. The recommendation to approve this allocation of funds is before you in the report, and I will of course be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, are there any questions? Okay, members, there are 3 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1, which I will move. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. I'll second that.
Thanks, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. And can I just say it's been a long journey on this, so it'd be good now that we can see the works going. And I think really looking at some of the photos of from the architects, I think the Knightswick Centre will look absolutely superb when the works are finished next year. So we all look forward to that. Members, so now I move on to agenda item 9, the Recreation Service new logo and rebranding. Councillor Tom Gibson, over to you again.
Thank you, Leader. This one is a report for Cabinet to endorse and implement a new Castle Point Active logo and branding to replace the original and current Castle Point Leisure logo. This will encompass an expanded range of recreational services across leisure centres, community halls and open space activities. To better promote resident health and engagement, the Council is launching Castle Point Active, a new unified brand encompassing existing leisure centres and expanding recreational services branding to include community halls and open space activities. Supported by the strapline Fitness, Leisure, Wellness Together, this rebrand will modernise our marketing and campaigns to showcase our full range of recreational and wellbeing offerings. A key feature of the rebrand is the zone concept, which will be implemented as on-site wayfinding, an essential element in our marketing to highlight specific offerings such as swimming, fitness, events and wellbeing services. This will allow us to utilise a far more versatile brand than the current Castle Point Leisure allows. This strategic update addresses the limitations of the current logo, designed before the digital era, which no longer meets modern accessibility standards. This common practice among organisations reflects the imperative to deliver accessible communications in today's evolving digital landscape. The new logo will not see an overhaul of all current signage, but rather an evolutionary rollout as signage is naturally replaced. A further rebranding exercise will follow to strategically roll out the branding more broadly, with the aim of maximising wellbeing opportunities as well as income generation to allow us to further enhance our active offering to our residents. This offering represents an exciting augmentation of our health and wellbeing offering, and I thank officers for all their work on this. The recommendation is before you in the report, and I will of course be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. And I know the branding, and I know we've seen it, and I think it's very exciting. It's about time we modernised, and I think the branding, and we've seen around the paddocks and various other areas, and I think the staff are all on board. I know Shane, and they're quite excited at the new branding. That and it makes the leisure centres look more modern, and I think it'll encourage people to actually be more active. Members, I move the recommendation to endorse the use of rollout of the new Castle Point Active logo for Council's recreation services set out in Apex 1. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 10, the corporate performance scorecard. Councillor Mumford, do you want to introduce your item?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, corporate performance scorecard for Q4 2024. This is the last of the scorecard reports for the 24-25 year. It introduces a number of annual indicators, so they are slightly longer than the reports previously. Performance against targets. 10 of the 39 indicators are for information only. 24 of the remaining 29 indicators are on or above target. 2 of the remaining 29 indicators are near target, and 3 of the remaining 29 indicators are below. The performance is summarised in table section 5.5, with detail against all indicators reported in the appendix. I think a good performance worth a mention to call out here is the void turnaround times. This is the average time taken to re-let council-owned housing. It's the time taken to measure from the end of the notice period from the outgoing tenant up until a new tenant has moved in. Performance has improved each quarter over 24-25, from 35 days in Q1 down to 17.6 days in Q4, which is now better than the target of 20 days. There are some areas which are below target, relating to the proportion of people who feel safe after dark, leisure satisfaction, the Net Promoter Score at Runnymede, swimming programme participants, and the proportion of people participating in physical activity. Most of these items are under review, and we are hoping that they will be improved by next quarter, and we will provide more details following. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mumford. Members, are there any questions at all? Councillor Savage.
It's more of an observation than a question. I think myself and Steve have spoken in some detail, and a lot of the councillors around this chamber have spoken about the lights going back on in the borough, the consultation that I think we're looking forward to. Will certainly go a long way in helping fix that target on the people who don't feel safe after dark, and I think we're moving in the right direction. It's something that PIP have always wanted to push forward, and I think as an independent council we all agree that that will go a long way in helping that issue.
All agreed there. Thank you. Is that noted, members? Okay, agenda item 11, the corporate performance scorecard proposed indicators 25-26. Councillor Mumford, over to you again.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to Ben and Josh for the work that's been done on. Thank you. Yeah, thanks to Ben and Josh for the work that's been done on the scorecard for the forthcoming years. A lot of hard work gone into ensuring that we're looking at all the areas there. So thanks to Ben and Josh. There's an update into the scorecard to reflect the administration's goals and the new ambitions of the corporate plan for 25 to 28. The table in section 5.2 shows the spread of indicators across each of these goals and ambitions. Details included in the appendix to the report included rationale for inclusion or removal from the scorecard. Of the proposed changes, the quarterly indicators, 26 of the current indicators are to remain. 2 of the current 25 indicators are to be removed from the scorecard and will continue to be monitored at service level. 6 of the current indicators to be added for monitoring. These are percentage increase, decrease in reported crime, antisocial behaviour cases reported in housing, gas safety certificates, electrical safety certificates, calls received through the contact centre, and the number of people seen at reception. Of the annual indicators, 16 of the current indicators are to remain, 2 are to be removed, and 20 to be added for monitoring in 25-26, and details are included in pages 19 to 24 of the report. Whilst in-year changes to the suite of indicators has always been a feature of the scorecard, this feature has not been used. For future reports, I propose that for operational performance indicators which are not on the scorecard, that have 2 or more periods of declining performance and been under target, these indicators will be highlighted in the next available quarterly corporate scorecard to Cabinet to be informed as well as members. This will allow greater visibility and scrutiny of areas of poor performance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mumford. Members, any comments or questions? No. Okay then, members, there are 2 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1, which I'll move. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, members, moving on, matters referred from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I'd like to welcome Councillor Watson, the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Members, there are 2 items referred from Overview and Scrutiny. First of all, we have a report on the Environment Enforcement Policy. Councillor Watson, could you please introduce your item?
Thank you, Chair. The Environment Enforcement Policy contains the following principles: to inform providing details on how to dispose of waste correctly, how to advertise correctly, and around responsible dog ownership, etc. On education, this includes plans for the Council to undertake campaigns such as Keep Britain Tidy and to provide information and engagement around the issues such as fly tipping, hotspots and littering. On enforcement, the Council's environment team has powers to enforce against offences using relevant legalisation, including issuing fixed penalty notices and community protection notices. At the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, there were a lot of questions from members on the policy, and we learned that CCTV, body cameras and officer presence would be used in hotspot areas for fly tipping and littering, and known hotspots will be monitored. The highest reported offence in the borough is for fly tipping. The intention is that the process will be monitored in 6 months' time to track effectiveness. Chair, I commend the recommendation set out in paragraph 2.1 of the report to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Members, are there any comments or questions? No. Members, I will move the recommendation to approve the Environment Enforcement Policy, June 25, set out in Apex B. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Councillor Gibson, thank you very much. Members, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. And finally, there's a report from the Cycling Task and Finish Group. Councillor Watson, can you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. At the meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 4th of June, we received a report from the Cycling Task and Finish Group, which was set up in November 2024, with the aim of increasing daily use in walking and cycling networks in Castle Point community, not including leisure cycling. Essex County Council has produced a local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, LCWIP. The Task and Finish held 3 meetings, one of which included a presentation on the LCWIP. The plan sets out 2 main prioritised routes: Route CP10 from Canvey Town Centre to Basildon Station, Route CP12 from Benfleet Station to Lee Station, and noted 2 other priority routes, CP2 and CP7. The Task and Finish Group raised concerns about dangerous roads and unsuitable infrastructure, and noted that the LCWIP covered a proposal to repave existing infrastructure. The next phase will include a detailed action plan from the County Council. Members, please note that the paragraph numbering has gone wrong in the report. The paragraphs referenced in the recommendation should read paragraphs 4.16 and 4.18. Chair, I'd like to thank the Task and Finish Group for all the hard work they've done. They really did go out there and do some very, very hard work. Chair, I commend the recommendation to approve the LCWIP, subject to including the amendments set out in the paragraphs 4.16 and 4.18 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Members, are there any questions or comments? No. Members, I move the recommendation to approve the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan for Castle Point, subject to including the amendments set out in paragraph 4.1, 4.16 and 4.18 of the APEC 1. Do you have a seconder?
Second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members?
Agreed.
Members, and before I close the meeting, members, I would just like to say one thing about Councillor Watson and our scrutiny team, because I remember the peer review saying, how can you scrutinise yourself? Well, I can tell you they're doing an amazing job at scrutinising us, and the task and finish groups also are doing a fantastic job. So you can take that back to all your scrutiny team, that we think they're doing a brilliant job, and thank you very much. And on that note, members, that concludes the formal business of the evening, and I say good night. Thank you very much.